We're going to talk a little bit today about SEO and, broadly speaking, digital marketing. So I just thought it would be interesting to say a little bit about how I got to where I am. My job title now is Digital Performance Director, so I look after how content performs online. And it's a really results-focused approach to digital marketing and looking at how we can basically make brands visible, make sure that they're found in search engines, and ultimately we can deliver ROI for them. So it's a very strategic job, but it also mixes up creativity and also analysis. But back when I was finishing my A-levels, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, to be honest with you. All I knew was that I liked reading and writing and potentially was looking at going to do an English degree. But I didn't really have a lot of direction, and digital marketing back then wasn't as mature as it is these days. You couldn't really even learn about SEO. So I went off and did my English degree, and obviously learnt a lot along the way, but I still came out of university and thought, what next? I wasn't really any further forward. I'd honed my writing skills, obviously, and I'd read a little books and learnt about Shakespeare and the likes, but it wasn't really a tangible business career. It didn't really lend itself naturally to anything. So that's when I really went into the marketing side of things. Went off and did a Chartered Institute of Marketing, learned all about the principles of marketing, ran a design agency for 10 years, and then really focused in on the digital marketing side of things, and ultimately how to work with top brands. So these days we get to work with the likes of Wagamama, SagePay. It's exciting. So you get to obviously look at how you create content for those brands and ultimately how it delivers results for those brands. So the digital marketing landscape is vast. If I say digital marketing, what does it mean to you? What do you think of? Designing. Yep. Any ideas? Just throw them at me. Yeah.
Research.
Yep.
Social media.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, the whole host of stuff. So you're looking at content, whether it's content writing, websites themselves, how you promote those websites, so whether it is through something like search or whether you're looking at potentially careers in social media. You can get jobs where obviously looking at community management, so big brands, you know, actually have in-house people just looking after their Facebook community management or designing really cool ads for Instagram. So it's really vast. The area that I'm going to focus on today is SEO. So does everybody know what SEO means?
Search engine optimization.
Exactly, yeah. So what do you think that is? Do you know?
It's like, do you know, like when you're on Google and you type in something, like the first thing that comes up, like people paying for it, like because no one's going to go on page like 12, are they? Like, so you want it like as basic.
Yeah, exactly, and there's stats around that. So most companies want to be on page 1 of Google. Unless you're in those top 3 positions, 55% of clicks come from those first top 3 positions. I mean, how many of you bother even going through beyond page 1 when you're looking for something? If you're looking for something, you know, I don't know, latest smartphone to buy or whatever, you don't even bother, do you? So it's SEO's job to make sure that you're on that page 1. And as you said, there's paid results. So do you know the difference between a paid and organic result? Do you look at them? So the paid results will have a little ad symbol next to them, and companies pay money to do that. Organic is all natural. So whilst there might be agency fees for us to manage their SEO, they're not paying any paid media. There's no advertising spend. So ultimately, it's all about content. And it's about optimising that content. So we want to make sure that our website, the pages that we've invested in, we've spent money and time building them, we've created the content, we want to be found. We want search engines to know that we exist, and we want to be on page 1 ultimately. So our job as an SEO is to both increase the quantity of the traffic and also the quality of the traffic from organic search tactics. So really, if you're going to demystify SEO, it's about a lot of stuff. You've probably heard lots of different acronyms and terms. Really 2 fundamental pillars. Content, useful content, contextually relevant content, and then relevant links. And there's different ways that we do that. So, as I said, everything really begins and ends with content. If you can write good content, you can attract audiences to your website. You can engage them, you can inspire them, you can influence them to buy and do stuff and take desired actions. Content also helps search engine understand what your website's about. So it will actually say, based on a search query, what do I think this person wants to be looking for? And out of all these thousands of results that come back, why should I pick your page as being the most relevant to that search query? And there's lots of different things we do in order to make that work. So really, broadly speaking, our job is to make a website as relevant to a searcher's query as possible. And there's lots of different day-to-day tasks that we do to manage that process. And this is just a little example here of all the things that an SEO might get involved with. So if you're into research, you like going out and reading up about stuff, coming up with ideas, putting them into practice, keyword research is one of the main areas where you start when you're planning out your content. So there's free tools out there now, Chrome extensions with the likes of things like Keyword Surfer, or how many of you heard of Neil Patel? He's got a free tool called Uber Suggest. You can go on there, actually put in a search term and see how many people are searching for it. It actually tells you if you want to launch a new product into the market, or you've got an idea and you think it's really cool, you can actually see how many people are searching for it. Is it on trend? Then it's about building links. So when we say building links, we're talking about the links on the site, so how you navigate through a site, how easy it is to get into those pages, but also links away from your website. So what do other sites think about your content? Are they linking to it? Is it valuable? Is it useful? It's also about optimizing a sitemap, so looking at the structure of a site, having a sitemap in an XML format so that all your pages that you want indexed in Google are easily accessible from there. It's also working with developers and understanding the code on a page. Does the page load really well? How is it structured? And it's also working with the likes of Steve over there, designers. So it's all about user experience. So, you know, it's great having a fantastic idea, a fantastic concept, but ultimately, is that page designed in the right way to engage your audience? What does the narrative look like? Have you got really exciting headers on the page that tell your audience what the topics are? It's also about strategy. So to be a good SEO, you need to understand the businesses you're working with. So I mentioned some brands we worked with earlier. A big part of what we do is getting under the skin of those businesses to understand how their audiences think and feel. It's understanding the psychology of what makes somebody put in a certain search term and what they expect to see when they put in that search term. It tells us something about them. It's about content and content writing. And ultimately, we're all very results focused. So we monitor traffic levels. So one of the key...
I'm really sorry.
That's all right.
Is Adam Tomlinson? No. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt.
Does anybody know Adam Tomlinson? Where were we? Traffic, yeah. So a big part of what we do is produce reports for clients month on month, and we want to show that their traffic's increasing. Not just any traffic, good quality traffic. Because if we've got good quality traffic to the site, and we can say your organic traffic has increased by 500% year on year, we know we're doing a good job. We also track things like keywords with positions, with tools, with rankings. So being able to demonstrate a particular page or a keyword has got no rank, i.e. it's not even in the top 100 on Google, to then say it's on page 1 is really satisfying. And it's evidencing ROI to a client. So it's actually illustrating to them that they've invested their money wisely with us and they can now be found online. So broadly speaking, if we break down all those areas of tasks that we work on, there's 3 kind of fundamental areas of SEO: on page, off page and technical. So we'll just go into a little bit more detail of what they are. So on page is all about the art of understanding what people are searching for and how to deliver content around that. So we use keyword research tool to plan that out, understand what the demand is, to then decide whether or not we want to invest in that content and whether it should exist on the site and be indexed. But it's also understanding search intent. So what do you think I mean by search intent? Any ideas? Yep.
Does that mean when someone doesn't always know what they're searching for, so they're trying to find something like the title of a song that they don't know the name of from some lyrics, you need to know the intent?
Yeah, close. It's basically when you're typing anything into Google, it's telling me something about what you're thinking. So there are different types of search intent. And they, broadly speaking, they're broken down into these 4 areas. Thank you. There are informational searches. So, you know, how to create a fantastic talk. That's telling me I'm looking for information about creating a talk. It's how-to content. And you can build content that actually satisfies those search terms and create different articles around it and mark it up so Google knows it's an informational search response. There's navigational searches where you want to be directed straight into somewhere. Transactional service, so if I put in iPhone reviews or iPhone price deals, Google knows I'm in the market potentially to buy. I'm thinking about a buying mindset. I'm not in that research phase. And then there's the more commercial searches around any areas of topics or industries that tell us you want to find out more about a particular area. So knowing that, there's a lot that you have to worry about as an SEO. So it sounds technical, but ultimately it's all about understanding how to structure content for your audience and for search engines. So looking at things like the URL structure. So is it well structured and has it got keywords in it that identify what the page is all about? The website needs to be easy to navigate. So we work with designers on things like navigation and make sure that that menu structure is really easy to follow and that equally search engines can follow the nav into other pages in the site. The keywords need to be naturally placed into the page. Back in the day, you used to be able to just stuff a load of keywords on a page and you'd do really well in Google. Can't do that anymore. Use of anchor text, that's descriptive text pointing to other pages. You use headers and you put things like markup on the code to say this is an H1, an H2, an H3. And you also need to be able to write really compelling meta descriptions. So when you get a search result back from Google, you'll see a title and underneath that is a description. And our job is to make that really encouraging so that users actually click on it. It makes you want to actually go and visit that page. So that's the art of on-page. Off-page is basically what happens away from the website. And the way we deal with that is through a comprehensive outreach strategy. So basically your backlink profile, and by that I mean links pointing to your website, they matter. Basically the more links you get from other sites, it increases your backlink profile. It's effectively like other websites endorsing your website and saying this is a credible site, this has authority. And the way we do that is by creating really engaging campaigns so that sites want to link to our content. Again, in old school sort of black hat techniques, you could pay for links. You could spend thousands and thousands of pounds. Google's cottoned onto it now. It knows it's spammy links and it's not credible content. If I say to you something, you know, do you understand the difference between, say, panda, penguin, hummingbird? Do you know what I'm talking about? Is that gobbledygook? They're Google algorithm updates. So there's a whole science behind all of this, and Google understands that SEOs back in the day were trying to manipulate the results. They want it to be fair. They want users to make sure they're guided towards content that's meaningful, that's crafted, that's useful. And then the other area of SEO is the technical side of things. So we've talked about content, we've talked about creating fantastic campaigns. The other side is technical. Search engines basically send out bots or spiders and they crawl your website. So you need to be able to make sure that they're easy for search engines to find, that they can crawl the site and navigate through it successfully. We work with developers to make sure that the structure of a page and the quality of the code is such that the page speed works really well and it's not too slow. And ultimately, we want to make sure those websites are better for users. So it's very vast. We're working with designers, developers, brands, strategy, and on content. So having said all of that, what do you think makes a good SEO? What sort of skill sets do you think you need? Blank faces. Strategy, so a strategic thinker. So you have to be able to go in and work with clients to actually really get under the skin of their business and plan out a strategy. So how do you guide them through creating a content vision for them? You know, there's only so many pages you can write about a product, but how are you going to acquire more audiences in that don't know about your product? You need to build out a blog or a thought leadership section. You need to be able to identify what interests people, and that's a big part of what we do. You need to be good with words. You need to understand your audience profiling, target marketing, and the ability to write really strong content. You also need to be a good analyst and understand data. You need to be able to go into the data, understand what it means, interpret it, and present it back to the client. And also you need to be pretty creative. You need to be able to come up with ideas. You need to be able to write that content eloquently. You need to be able to engage audiences and come up with campaigns that are exciting, that brands want to buy. We've been working a lot in this space around link building, particularly around principles of gamification. So actually building out campaigns for clients where we create games or quizzes so that sites want to publish that content and link back to us. That's all part of a link building strategy. And ultimately an interesting tech as well. So whether that's understanding the way that the site is structured and coded, right through to all of the software that you're using to obviously get to data. So how do you get into SEO? Broadly speaking, anybody with an interest in marketing or PR. So you could start out looking at marketing or PR roles, whether it's in-house or in an agency. Or you could think about blogging. Anybody that's got a particular passion in an area. It's very easy these days, particularly if you know somebody that can code, to launch a WordPress site. Do the keyword research yourself, particularly if you've got a hobby, and see how it ranks. Play around with it, write the content, and see if you actually appear in the search results. It's really satisfying when you can see your website appearing. Or obviously you can look for work experience or internships at agencies. Most of what we do, we offer interns and work experience actually throughout the year. So you tend to get set tasks in different areas, so it gives you a really good window into the broad spectrum of SEO really and what you could focus on. Or you can also look at development and you can really specialise in the technical side of things. So there's lots of avenues into SEO, and you can either decide to look after the whole SEO strategy and understand it all, or you can specialise in any one of those areas in terms of where you feel that it's going to most resonate with you. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour of what SEO is. Any questions at all? Yeah?
What would you suggest is better doing, going to uni or going into an apprenticeship?
These days, if that kind of ticks your boxes, the earlier you can get on these days, sometimes the better. If you've identified what it is that excites you, you're more likely to progress quicker. I mean, I went and did university and did the long way round. I probably could have saved myself 10 years. But that said, it's all about the journey. So sometimes if you're not sure and you want to go off and experience a bit more, go to university and go into different areas, there are different routes basically, but there are free tools now, free guides. As I said, you can speak to agencies. Most agencies now will offer work experience, so it will just give you a flavour of what it's actually like to work in an agency environment. It's pretty fast-paced, and you obviously get to work with a lot of cool brands. So I think the more exposure you can get to that early on, even if you're doing that whilst you're at uni, it just helps you your decision making really, so that you know early on whether or not it's going to be something for you.